Hello there. Now, this was not exactly a vlog I had planned, and I know I'd promised before not to react to events, but I just wanted to get this out there. I had a couple bits of bad news tonight that kind of came to me out of the blue, just like that. Well, first and foremost, and it's what I really wanted to discuss here, Whitney Houston has died at the age of 48. I'll get into that in a minute, but I also wanted to say that I found out about 20, 30 minutes later that the conservative candidate Mitt Romney won the Republican primary for the state I lived in. Now, I'm not going to get too political, but I'm not a Republican, so I mean, it shouldn't matter to me, but it's just a reminder of some things that, I was born here in Maine, but there are some things I'm not too crazy about this state for, and I'm not going to get into that. I think that our thinking could be a little bit better. It's just my own personal opinion. It's dragged me down a lot. But I wanted to talk about Whitney. I mean, there are some positive things and negative things that can come from that. Try to be balanced. My personal feelings are, when Michael Jackson died, I realized I never made a YouTube video for that. Because my heart really did break. I mean, sentimental as this is, I felt Michael Jackson was a man whose emotional growth had been put through trial and errors. He was an adult who had been an adult, but kind of reverted backward into something else, and I don't know what it was, and it ate him up. And he died. And, partly at someone else's hands, but a lot of cases he was a victim of himself. But I see Whitney Houston as very much a victim of herself. She came from this really powerful background with Sissy Houston, who backed up Aretha Franklin in the Sweet Inspirations. Her aunt, Dionne Warwick. What more needs to be said but Dionne Warwick? Okay. I don't care for everything Dionne did any more than I care for everything that Whitney did. Well, I'm sure for that matter, Sissy had their moments, but they all produced some very interesting work at one time or another that said a lot. But, Dionne, I don't feel as that bad a success. I mean, I can criticize her music in certain ways, and, I think even Dionne can criticize herself. I've heard she's her own worst critic. But Whitney, it went beyond music. You can go on and say, well, she was kind of boring, and she did a lot of music you might consider to be corny, but a lot of people really liked it too. And if somebody can like something in this day and age, more power to them. I mean, there's so much not to like. As a friend of mine said, there's not really a good enough measure of critical discussion in today's world. It's either negative or all positive, but no real good, well, not a lot of real good critical discussion in the world. And Whitney merits a lot of critical discussion. On the one hand, she has that vocal talent in spades passed down from that family, from Sissy and from Dionne and her lesser-known sister, Dee Dee Warwick. Any of you remember her? Dee Dee Warwick. I only found out about her some years ago. Whitney has that ability. She has those pipes. She possesses those pipes. They are hers. It's in the genetics. It's in the blood. Maybe. But I don't really think she used them that well. I think some of the material choices could not possibly have lived up to, what she had. Somebody said that when they heard her first album once, I think it was All Music Guide, that the impression of Whitney was as an incredibly gifted vocalist using the bare minimum of her skills. And that is what I said. She didn't go up. You might say she even half-stepped. She didn't step up to the plate in a lot of ways. But she did some stuff I really liked. She did a song on her last album, unfortunately, last album that she made live called $1 Million Bill, which was great. Her voice had changed. It wasn't the same way it used to be, but it was great. It had an up-tempo, Philly, soul kind of feel, and I loved it. I thought it was a great song, and I thought, even I'm Your Baby Tonight had a strength to it, and I think as she went on, her songs gained more of an inner strength as she got older. Then with Michael Jackson, there was more of a strength there, and, you couldn't call it schmaltzy. But my situation with Whitney went beyond music. She married Bobby Brown. She had a child with him. There was a bad relationship. She started using drugs, and at first it was just the fodder for tabloid. Then it got worse and worse and worse until her instrument that was so vital to her success started to die away. Then I saw her, I think it was a couple years ago, I think it was the Grammys. She was in the middle of singing a song, and she just couldn't do it. I could tell she was off, and I was angry. I was sad because I'm not going to name names, but somebody in my own family, it wasn't my mother or my father, but somebody we knew about very well, lived a life similar to Whitney Houston and probably died of somewhat similar reasons, with drugs involved. And it ruined the lives of some people I very near and dear love. So a part of me wants to feel bad for Whitney, but a part of me just doesn't. You know, we all have choices in our lives, and, you know, sometimes we make the wrong one. And if we do, we shouldn't be praised for it. You know, we should be pitied, and it should be a lesson to us not to make the same mistake again. This is a rough vlog. You know, it's Valentine's Day coming up in several days. You know, I'm going to make a much more positive one tomorrow. But just remember, there's a positive thing to learn here too. Remember, keep your criticism even. Not too positive, not too negative. But, wow, this Whitney thing is really hitting me in a strange place. So, R.I.P. Whitney. You'll be missed, but I just really wish it could have been different for you. I really wish you hadn't have gone out the way you went out. See you next time. I will.